So getting into the news, we have a rumor from Insider Gaming that apparently there is a new Steam console coming from Valve, and this, from what we can tell, does not appear to be like they did with the Steam machines previously, where they had a bunch of different manufacturers all able to put the Steam machine thing on their machine, but more that this is just be its own independent Steam console that Valve itself will be making, and that it would come with the new Steam controller, or I'm sorry, well, I don't know if it would come with that, but that is just something else that they'd be working on along with the rumored new VR headset. And so there's been a series of posts from a Valve insider, Brad Lynch, that he has posted on social media, I'm assuming on X. Yes. And he said that it would still be using AMD, nothing about the power of the console, just basically that it exists, apparently. And it is approaching the 10-year anniversary of when Valve released its first Steam controller and Steam machine, so that could be a reason for them to do a new one, but regardless, what are your thoughts?
So, I have some mixed thoughts on this. I mean, on one hand, it's kind of interesting that Valve would make something like this. I think that's pretty cool. On the other hand, do we actually need it? Considering the fact that we are in a period where people who want to play on PC either buy a pre-built or they make their own PCs. And I mean, now that, it's easier to find parts. Granted, some manufacturers are raising the prices of their components, sadly, but for the most part, it's pretty simple and straightforward to get what you want. It might be a matter of, whether something's affordable enough, but for the most part, you can still have access to the parts you want for your build. So that being said, do I think that anyone would really want to get something like this? I don't know. I mean, considering the fact that the Steam machine launched, and granted there were different models, but it really didn't sell well. Because, if people wanted to get people were just focused on consoles. Now, of course, there are other things that contribute to the, downfall of the original Steam machine, was the fact that, I guess for one thing, the major thing actually really is the fact that gaming on Proton is definitely different, vastly different than it is now. I mean, even if you go back 5 years ago, gaming on Linux now is much better. So I mean, consider the fact that back then it was way worse. Like, compatibility, Proton was not where it needs to be. It's not, gaming in Linux isn't perfect by any means, but it's definitely much of an improvement. But I still don't know if that would be enough to get people to switch, because I mean, sure, you could say the Steam Deck is successful. Well, that's relative. I mean, in the PC handheld market, yeah, I would say it's a success. But if you compare it with consoles, if you compare it with the Switch, the Xbox Series, the PS5, you could compare it to the Wii U. it's still abysmal, because it sold 1-2 million units. I mean, the Wii U at least sold 18 million. So it's definitely not a big. It's definitely not a big seller. But I mean, maybe depending on what Valve expects this thing to do as far as what it can push, because if it is something like the Steam Deck, where because Valve is making it themselves, if it's something where they're just selling it directly from their store, that might, I guess on their end make it more viable. But if it's something that they're trying to, sell in stores like Walmart, Best Buy, Target, whatever GameStop still exists, then I don't know. I really feel like there's gonna be there's gonna be a lot of consoles sitting on the shelves because, for one thing, also, I really feel like it's kind of hard to get a console player to switch over to PC, and there's going to be a mentality of them expecting a full PC experience, and they're not really going to be getting it. Because for one thing, which is something that I've been discussing with people who've left comments on a video I've made about this, is the fact that if someone buys it thinking they're going to get the same Windows treatment, they're going to be disappointed because of anti-cheats like the ones found in Valorant, the ones found in Apex Legends, and because of the way Rockstar handed things, GTA Online, you can't play those games because of the fact that the anti-cheat, is blocked. Now, part of it is due to the fact of the devs, because of the fact that, as far as with like easy anti-cheat and even some, oh gosh, I can't remember what the one is that is used by Epic, but as far as those anti-cheats go, Valve worked to be able to get that anti-cheat to work under Linux, but the problem is the devs just don't turn the switch on, so you can't have that compatibility. And so people are going to think, oh man, I want to play these games, these big competitive shooter games, or these, these big major games that are these multiplayer games. So I want to play Rainbow Six Siege on PC, and it's like, oh well, this is an easy way to get into PC gaming, and they're gonna be disappointed because of the fact that it's not what they would expect from a PC as far as gaming goes, just because of the fact that it is running Linux. So that's something that I am also skeptical of. I feel like people might jump into this not knowing what it is, which I think is something that Valve should address if it is true. They should, put straightforward. This is, sure, even if you put labels here, some people don't pay attention to stuff and will still, you could put neon lights on it and people still won't actually read what's there. But I still feel like they should try to really push the fact that this is Linux based, so that way people have some sort of disclaimer or knowledge of what they can expect. But another concern I have is the fact that this is going to be similar to the Steam machine, because or at least the one that was really pushed, because I guess the main Steam machine that was there, or at least the one that was pushed the most, was the Alienware alpha units, which is the one that I bought. And at least with that one, you can't really upgrade that one. You can change the CPU out, you can change the hard drive if you want. You can, because of the fact that it's using SATA, you could swap in a SATA SSD. You can change the RAM, which, interesting enough, is DDR-L memory, and so it's like using laptop RAM instead of desktop RAM. But you can't change the GPU because that's completely soldered onto the motherboard. So what you have is what you get, and I really feel like even if it is a console, it is still at the end of the day a PC, and because of that, I believe that you should still have the full PC experience. You should still have the freedom of a PC to upgrade it, to switch out parts if you want to. And sure, if it's got a unique case, it's gonna be harder, but I still feel like, say for example, someone didn't want to use an AMD GPU because this one is supposed to be using AMD, so they want to use NVIDIA, or they even want to use Intel. They can't do that because if it is, purely soldered on, if you can't upgrade it, then they're pretty much stuck with that. So I wish that even if they just decided, okay, this is the one we have, this is the one that we're gonna, just present to you. If they at least have the ability to, say they have just like a slot that you can just stick a GPU in there and, have at it. I think they should still have the option. Even if people don't want to, I think it's good if people have that choice. If they just say, we have enough space in our console for, say, at most a 3-slot GPU. So if you want to, put in some crazy 4080, 4090 card, you're out of luck there because that's 4 slots. But if they at least gave a little bit of room for people to upgrade some stuff, I think that would be great. And also would extend the longevity of the console itself because, hey, the hardware's a bit old here. It's kind of struggling in some games. I like to, play some more stuff. If I could switch out a part here and there, that could, give me some more power out of this. I could get some more out of this console. I wish that was a thing, but it seems like it's not, based upon the fact that what did it say here in the article? That like the HDMI port is hardwired to the card directly. So it looks like that's just part of the motherboard, and so the GPU is completely soldered onto there, and there's no actual output for that you would have for a dedicated GPU. I don't expect it to do well, but I'll save some other stuff after, because the comments that I read did give me a lot of insights. So I guess just based on my raw opinions, that's what I have for the Steam Machine.
All right. Anyway, so in terms of my thoughts on this Steam console, I do think that compared with the original Steam machines, this one has a much better job of actually succeeding, just in the simple fact that it is, assuming it's just one model instead of doing a bunch of different models, that will help a lot. Like you said, the fact that Proton SteamOS is significantly further along and a completely different spot from where it was back when they released the Steam machines will also make a big difference, because because you can play the majority of games nowadays. It's just obviously, like you said, the anti-cheat stuff that gets in the way. I mean, Destiny 2 is a great example of a game that you won't be able to play on there, at least, not without Windows, which is, of course, annoying that they have issues like that. But in general, at least it should, in theory, be able to run a lot of things. Some other thoughts that I had regarding that is, I wonder if this could be something that would be more powerful than the PS5 Pro. It wouldn't be hard for them to do. They could sell the consoles at a loss if they wanted to. Now, is it going to beat out the PS5 Pro in terms of sales? No, not a chance. Absolutely no chance of that. However, it could be the gateway for some people. Could be what actually gets them into PC, because like some people, they're not that interested in a Steam Deck because it is a little limited on power and not everybody likes to play handheld gaming. But if this rumored Steam console is a legitimate thing, Valve could build something that meets or exceeds the PS5 Pro if they wanted to. Not saying they will. Maybe charge a little bit more for it. Maybe not. Actually, realistically, I think they probably could get away with charging the same amount that the PlayStation charges for the PS5 Pro and be able to make something that's more powerful. That being said, it's hard to say whether or not this would be successful from that standpoint. Like you said, it's kind of hard to define the success because it is such a different market. If you're bringing it into the console space, obviously there's going to be people who will look at this and they'll say, oh, it's a failure because it doesn't sell as much as the consoles. But the reality is that it's still technically a PC. And so it's such a weird comparison from that standpoint. Now, of course, right now we don't even know that this thing is a real thing. I believe it probably is, but it's hard to say from that standpoint whether or not it would be something that would sell super well. I mean, I think it would be successful would be significantly more successful than the Steam machines were, but still nowhere near the level of regular consoles. I do think that it has the potential to be something that is able to draw more people into PC gaming, just because they'd have the option of getting something that gives them that couch experience. They don't have to have the weakness of the Steam Deck, because the Steam Deck has its weaknesses, of course, and they still get the benefits of PC gaming from the standpoint of the massive Steam library and all of that. It's just obviously compatibility, at least unless you can get companies like Easy Anti-Cheat and all that to work with Linux, certainly makes the number of games available lesser than it would be otherwise. So, now in terms of whether or not I would buy something like this, no. I mean, there's a reason why I don't buy a console, and even if this thing were more powerful than the PS5 Pro, than the Series X, I still just don't want to buy a console. Like, I would much rather have, if I'm gonna have to sit down at a screen that's, not in my hands, that I can't just, turn off and on as I please, put to sleep and boot back up whenever, I have a few minutes to play, then I'd rather just be playing on my PC. Because at that point, it's like, well, there's no benefit to having a console. I mean, if I want to play my PC on my TV in the living room, all I have to do is stream it, and because it's wired, it's low latency. I mean, virtually no latency. I can still get 60 frames per second on my games, and it's a great experience. I just don't do that very often because it's a better experience on my monitor than it is playing on TV screen. So, but I think that's pretty much all I have to say from that standpoint.
Okay. Now, two things I actually forgot. Now, two things that I'm very excited about, that if this is true, I hope that this helps develop these along. And one is the fact of possibly getting a SteamOS 3 for desktop, since it currently only works for the Steam Deck, and there's no official build that's suited for a desktop. I would really hope that this pushes that development alone, so there's official full release, so people can install it on their PCs if they want to make their own little mini Steam machines. That's something they could also do with that, because I mean, like, at best right now, like I said earlier, we only have the unofficial OSs that try to do that, like Chimera OS, Nobara, and Bazite. But to actually have a full official Steam OS for people to use would be great. And in light of the fact that the HoriPad disappointed me, I would really love to have a good Steam controller too. And I mean, I keep thinking about the fact that if I had a Steam Deck without the screen in my hand, that would be a great controller to have.
Yes,
I mean,
100%.
Having the control sticks, having the gyro, having the back pedals, I mean, having the touchpads for when I feel like using them.
Yep.
Like, it's just great. That would be exactly what I want. So that's another reason why I would like this to be true, because of the fact that it would mean we could possibly get a Steam controller too, and that would be great. That would be great. Now, there were a couple comments that I received on my video that really gave me some thoughts. One thing was the fact that I can't remember where it was, but something about, I don't think it was in this particular article, but somewhere that possibly of that this might not even completely be a console itself. It could be a hybrid system, not necessarily a Steam Deck, but something still that is hybrid as far as being portable, but still a stationary system.
So a console.
I'm curious.
I mean, that's what a console is. It's technically portable, but it's still stationary.
Yeah, so like I'm not certain. Like I would have to look more into that, but I'm not sure. And then one thing that was mentioned about as far as contributing to the failure of the original Steam machine was the fact that Valve did something similar to 3DO did back in the 90s, which was they actually released the Steam machines at full price, and they didn't sell at a loss. So they sold the Steam machines for like $500-$700, and that really killed it, considering the fact that the Xbox 360 and even the PS3 were cheaper devices to get. So that definitely did not help them. But considering the fact that, as you said, the PS5 is $700. If they were to sell the Steam machine at $700, it'll be more palatable. People would be more willing to digest that, especially if people say, "Oh, you gotta spend like $500,000 to build a good gaming PC. You need to take a loan out. You need to sell a kidney so you can buy it because PC parts are so expensive. You can't buy a PC for under $1,500. That runs things better than 2013 games, but if they did make a Steam console that was within that price range, $500-$700, it would possibly do better because it's a more arguable. I mean, consider the fact that, like I said, consoles now are more expensive. It's something that people would be more willing to buy. So it definitely could help. I would probably see it being more $700, considering the fact that the Steam Deck is, the limited edition is $650. What's like the highest tier one? Is that like $550? Like if you get the 1 terabyte model, that's not like a limited edition.
No, it's $650 for that. Remember, it was like $730 or something like that for the limited edition.
Okay.
Or something like that. I can't remember the exact amount, but yeah.
Okay. So yeah. So considering the fact that the Steam Deck is that much, I think it probably would be $700 having the Steam console. Now I will say this, partially out of morbid curiosity, and partially because I already was crazy enough to buy a Steam machine. Granted, I got that one for much less than people who bought it at launch. I probably would get the Steam machine too, just to see what it can do. Just possibly, if I wanted to say do something on a couch. Granted, like similar to what you said, I could, stream it from a PC to the TV. But I feel like it would just be very interesting to me to try it out, and also, see if there's anything else that could possibly be done, especially saying, hey, is there something that interesting, like if I could do something interesting with my Steam Deck and connect it with it, I would be curious to see that. So I probably would get one, but I would still have to get more information on it, especially if it's something like, if I'm wrong, it's like $1,000, then I would definitely wait a whole while before I would get one. But I am curious enough that I would say I would be interested in getting one if it is true. But yeah, that's everything now that I have regarding the Steam machine.
Good stuff.